sometimes the best defense is a good offense. The Pac-12 has applied that philosophy successfully.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Thomas Castellanos said, what now? Oh boy, do I have thoughts. Big 12 and the playoff, a fascinating discussion, all in today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, the Pac-12 did indeed announce news, as it was suspected to be able to do on Monday, and they come out and announce, bingo, bango, bongo. CBS is their primary partner, or among their primary media rights partners. They will air plenty of games, including their conference championship games. They'll have plenty of games on CBS Sports Network, and they are not done. This is a pretty aggressive move. If you recall, and I do because that's kind of my job here, the Mountain West media rights deal that I thought the Pac-12 would go and try and piggyback on, since they just brought over the most attractive brands from that particular conference into the New World Pac-12. I thought they would go and talk to the current Mountain West TV partners, who are Fox and CBS, and say, hey, remember how you had this contract with the Mountain West and it's expiring beginning in the 2026 season, and you probably need to fill that time slot? Well, we now have an even better television product than what you were having before, because we have all the best teams, plus Oregon State and Washington State, who of course carry a solid amount of brand power with them. And CBS has now decided, yep, that's someone who we want to be with, and they're going to be a part of the Pac-12's broadcasting footprint through 2031. Now, this aligns very closely with what Teresa Gould, the Pac-12 commissioner, has said publicly, which is, hey, we're not just looking for some place to stash our games, we're looking for an actual partner. Now, through 2031, maybe I'll discuss this later this week. Maybe. We'll see where the summer content takes me. However, it is noteworthy that at 2031, when everything could blow up and we could go to two conferences, that's when this grant of rights with the existing 8 schools, it's still just 8. It's still just 8. We haven't heard anything on Texas State just yet. I don't think we're going to have to wait too much longer for that particular piece of news. But early 2030s, I think about these things regularly because, I mean, what else do you think I'm thinking about when I'm fishing? Which is a real thing. Like, I think about these things when I'm fishing. That's where my mind wanders. What will I talk about in the off season 5 years from now? What will the big stories be? I know. I already know, because this conversation is just going to continue and continue and continue until college football either blows up, hopefully not, probably not, or just dramatically undergoes a tectonic shift of what the sport actually looks like, how the governing structure works. And I'm not talking about what we've just seen in the last 6 to 12 months or in the last 2 to 3 years. No, I'm talking even beyond that. But the Pac-12 getting CBS there is really good, because whatever the finances are, and we haven't heard what the dollar figures actually are, maybe that means Texas State has to be announced for them to actually say how much each school is going to get for its media rights distribution, or maybe, because this is just how the Pac-12 goes, maybe they overvalued themselves and the numbers that were getting thrown out there aren't as high as they would perhaps like them to be, and they don't want to throw out, a $6 million a year number when people were expecting the 8 to 10 range. But what I've long argued with that is, yeah, you'd like to be above the Mountain West. You want to have every way that you can to separate yourself from the Mountain West, from the American, to get as close as you can to the Big 12 and ACC. I don't think they can actually get there, of course, both financially and credibility-wise in college football. You should still strive to try and get close. That should be your goal. Whether or not you get there, I don't know. But it's kind of like in golf. You aim small. If you're 50 yards away from the hole and you try to make it in the hole, well, you're probably going to wind up, 10, 15 feet away. Whereas if you try to be 10, 15 feet away, you have a better chance psychologically of being 25 to 30 feet from the cup. So that's true for most golfers, by the way. Anyway, so that could be where the Pac-12 is at. I don't have a strong suspicion one way or the other which it is. Okay, that's not entirely true. I don't have a strong suspicion. I have a suspicion. It's probably not going to be $12 to $15 million and wildly outperform expectations. Or else that's information that probably would have been a part of the social media PR campaign that the Pac-12 was running yesterday. They had these, nicely synced up posts amongst their member institutions about the CBS and Pac-12. Putting those two things together is indeed a smart visual to promote. You want to plug that as often as you can because it lends credibility to your conference and it assures you're going to have a quality production for people to tune in and watch your games. It assures that access is going to be there for people to tune in and watch your games. All of those things matter a great deal. Do you want to get as much money as you can? Sure. But you're going to be inherently so far behind everybody else. Prioritizing exposure, which is what Teresa Goldie said they have been looking at for quite a long time. And I think this, having CBS involved reflects that. There are going to be other media partners that will get announced, but CBS is just the first one. They might be finishing up a couple other things, like who their ninth school is going to be. That'll be their eighth football playing member, of course. But prioritizing exposure, I think, is smart because if you go for a deal that gets you a couple $1 million more, you're not making a big enough jump to where it's worth forfeiting the exposure you get and the access to your conference. You cannot, in the age of mass media, just fade into the ether. You can't be, what there are defunct streaming services out there. There were ones that popped up and went away. I can't think of the name of one off the top of my. I think CNN had one and it didn't work. Like there have been several that have popped up. You don't want to wind up going to a riskier entity like that could have perhaps more upside just to get a few $1 million more. You need to make sure that your fans can access your games, that the country can watch your games, and this ensures that. So this is a really, really good move. And the reason I said at the start of the show, this is playing offense as the best defense, is you're always inherently trying to protect yourself, defense, but this is an aggressive move because you went out and got one of the Mountain West's now former television rights partners and made them a primary part of your deal. Now we see what happens with Fox. That's the next big domino to fall. Does Fox want to go back to the new look Mountain West where you've got UNLV, where you've got Air Force, you've got Wyoming, you've got Hawaii, San Jose State, you've got NIU as an affiliate, or does Fox want to get involved with the New World Pac-12, or do they want to dip their toe into both waters? That might be something that is getting figured out as you're listening to or watch this show and why it hasn't been announced yet. Or maybe the whole deal has actually been announced because they've been working on this for quite some time and it was expected that news would come about right around this time of year with July 1st looming. And maybe they just want to dominate the news cycle. So they announce CBS one day, then another day they'll announce their other partner, whether that's the CW or Fox or ESPN or, two of those potential partners. And then another day you have Texas State. And it's just all, a PR campaign. I could see that. I could absolutely see that. But bottom line takeaway here for the Pac-12, having CBS as a primary partner, for your championship games to be on CBS and to have plenty of games that'll be on CBS Sports Network. You'll have regular season games and postseason games on there. It's a massive win. If you're a Pac-12 fan, you're looking for good news anytime you can find it. This is good news. This is very, very good news for the Pac-12. There's going to be more that will come about in, maybe today as you listen to or watch this show. Maybe tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is the first of what I expect to be a string of good news articles and such coming out for the good old Pac-12 conference, which soldiers on, indeed. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. I felt like a character from the movie Cars recently. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, I like them all, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. They don't know what they're missing, and you don't need to warn them about it. Or you tell them and say, hey, this is pretty fun. You're making this stuff more exciting. That's kind of what life's about, is making it fun, making it exciting. And guess what? You can bet on college football, which you might want to do because you listen to or watch this show. And this is a college football show, of course. And so if you wanted to do that, you can already. You can bet on games, conference title odds, national championship odds. You can bet on all sorts of things. Props are starting to show up. Win totals are there for every team. There's everything that you want. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. All right, so one of the best Disney Pixar films of all time is Cars. Like, Ratatouille is my number one. Cars and The Incredibles are in there 2 and 3. And then we can debate the rest. But those are the elites. Those are the tier ones. So I was thinking about Cars recently because there's this great scene where Lightning McQueen is has realized that Doc is the Hudson Hornet, a famous race car. And he races into town out there on, Route 66 at Radiator Springs. And he says, "Did you know Doc is a famous race car?" And they all laugh at him. And he says, "He has a piston cup." And Mater says, "He did what in his cup?" Okay. I felt like Mater reading what Thomas Castellanos, let me remember, this is how unbelievable, I cannot believe this was said. Thomas Castellanos, hilarious name, not for his own reasons, but for external reasons, said he's dreamed of playing against Alabama. Quote, "They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me." End quote. Oh. Did Mike Norvell sign off on that quote? Did Gus Malzahn sign off on that quote? Did anybody on it? Where did this come from? Who allowed this quote to go out there? Have you heard the phrase bulletin board material before? I have. I'm sure Kalen DeBoer has. And this should be in the locker room yesterday in Tuscaloosa. Because, look, I'm here for it as an outsider who talks about the sport for a living and wants games to be fun, exciting, spicy. I'm here for that. It spices it up. Don't forget, Alabama and Florida State play this year. But to take a direct shot at Kalen DeBoer like that, you didn't say his name, but you said the other guy's name. They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. Dude, as someone who is involved every single year, actively engages with college football broadcasts every year as a part of my other job with Southern Utah University, something that I think any broadcaster, any play-by-play broadcaster would tell you is our primary job is to tell the story of the game. But up there really high on the list of priorities is don't make the team's job harder. Don't make any sort of comment. Don't make noise. Don't give any sort of fodder to anyone anywhere. You just show up. You be prepared. You call the game. If you do some pregame and interviews talking about it, whatnot, you keep it down the line. You say you're confident, expect it's going to be a great game. You don't want this stuff out there. You just don't. And so Castellanos poking the bear, I got to give him credit. If his plan was to get more people interested in Alabama, Florida State, I think we were going to be anyway. Just as a matter of principle, the non-conference slate in college football is, like it is every other year. It's very hit and miss, to be sure. But the idea that this is benefiting anyone, like Florida State, make whatever you want of the odds market, according to our friends at FanDuel, is a 12.5-point dog. Do you know why? Because Alabama is a significantly better football team than Florida State. Alabama was significantly better than Florida State last year. Alabama will be significantly better than Florida State this year. That doesn't mean FSU with Castellanos back there isn't going to be improved. They should be. Gus Malzahn's their OC. He and Castellanos know each other. And, he said he butted heads with Bill O'Brien last season, needs a fresh start. Okay, I can see him going to Florida State, being productive, being better than DJ Uiagalelei last year, because that whole situation was an abject disaster area. Worst preseason top 10 team in the history of college football. But why do you give this quote? What is to be, how does this help? You're firing up a bunch of guys who were already dead set on trying to hit you as much as they can? You're firing up a head coach who I personally think most of the SEC sleeps on because his first year didn't go as well as it should have. Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a football coach. And you know what? By all accounts that I've heard, he's a really nice guy. And he's a darn good football coach. And I can also guarantee you he is as competitive as the day is long. And though each day, now that we've passed the summer solstice, is getting a little bit shorter, we're in the long day part of the annual calendar. We're not in gets dark at 4:30. So to go out there and say this is so crazy and does absolutely nothing but paint a target on your own back, paint a target on your team's back, and it should be up there. If you were Kane Womack, Alabama defense coordinator, there is no world whatsoever where you don't want to use this. Now, I can see having the perspective, it shouldn't matter. They shouldn't need to be motivated by that. Yeah, but here's the thing. When you're a coaching staff, especially in football where you only have so many game days every single year, you push whatever buttons you need to get your team in the correct mindset to go out and win the football game, to go out and physically impose your will on the team across from you. This is a great way to do it. I mean, going out there, they don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. Look, on the side of things in which I'll give Castellanos a bit of credit, I like a confident player. I don't need you to go out there and be the humblest dude of, oh man, I just want to show up and have a good time. Like, I don't know that that's who I'd want to be the quarterback on my team. This crosses a line of going into the territory of foolish. This has no positive benefit for Florida State. And just wait. When that game rolls around, and let's say Alabama is getting close to covering that spread, they could think about a moment like this and go, nah, let's keep scoring. Sure, put the backups in, whatever. Let's keep scoring. Let's make it embarrassing. Let's make them feel unsettled over there and showcase, yeah, we can't stop you. Now, Alabama's defense last year was a significant reason why they were not good enough. Their offense also scored 3 points. They were robbed by the officials. Okay, fine. 10 points on the road against Oklahoma last season. That's not good enough. But the defense against Vanderbilt couldn't get off the field on third down. We'll see if Castellanos can do the same thing. I'm going to be tuned in. I had this game on my radar. Now it's even more on my radar. So for that, I'd like to say thank you, Thomas Castellanos, former Boston College quarterback who will get a chance to beat Alabama this year. Thank you at least for that. And also, good luck, my man, because you're going to need it. What does the Big 12 need to get into the playoff every year? More than once. That's coming up next. The Big 12 and the playoff is an annual discussion of how does the Big 12 get the most teams possible in. Who is actually best positioned to do that? Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils is here to discuss. So I have to credit Brian Smith for putting this idea in my head, Richie, and I might just ask it to every single host at this network and call it the rest of my summer content. I'm just debating it. And so he said, if you were looking at the non-big brands in college football, take out your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Notre Dames, your Georgias, okay, all the obvious ones, Clemson, that you expect to be in the playoff basically every single year, barring unforeseen circumstances. Who are the teams that you think can make the playoff? And I thought, well, that's kind of hard. Then he went a step further and said, well, what about conference by conference? Now, Brian's teams in the Big 12, his top 4 Big 12 teams that will be next in line to make the playoff, Colorado, Baylor, TCU, and Kansas State. Your reaction to that list. And by the way, this is not a shot at Arizona State because he's saying the next 4 programs that will reach the college football playoff, 12, 16, or 74 team format, whatever we end up getting.
So, first of all, you mentioned taking out the teams that we hear every year in the playoff. You didn't mention Arizona State. I thought that was really weird. Did Brian just put the other 15 teams in the Big 12 in a hat and just pull the teams out? Because there's a handful of other programs that I like better than Colorado, Kansas State. I mean, we kind of expect them to be in the thick of it every year. What were the other 2?
Baylor and TCU.
Okay, so he just randomly picked Colorado because I like the other 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, TCU feels obviously they're capable. We saw that. If the program operates to its full capacity, we know that they're capable. My question is, do they get back there? Because they could have kind of a Florida State vibe to them. Florida State won the national championship, got to the playoff the next year. Since then, and then they popped up. Of course, they didn't get into the playoff. That's a whole different discussion and whatnot. But it just feels like we'll always think of, well, they had that one year, they had that one run, and then they just weren't able to stay at that level. But you know, as strange as it is that it's only been one off season where we can have this discussion I'm about to bring up, Richie, can I just put Texas Tech in there, please? Can I please do it? Can I make them the Texas A&M of the Big 12? Which is
don't do that to them. I like the Red Raiders. Hold on, there's no slander to my friends over in Lubbock. Chris Level would never stand for that kind of slander.
He would not. He would not. You're right. That's the program to me that feels poised. But there is that thought in the back of my head. The question you ask about Texas A&M all the time under Jimbo Fisher, not as much under Mike Elko. I believe I had Texas A&M's record spot on last year within one game, and I think they will be good again this year. But it's more the Penn State question of the potential, the expectation, the relevance. It's there. It's always there. But where's the next step? When is the next step? And if Texas Tech makes the Big 12 championship game this year, that will be a next step for the program.
Yeah, and I think that we could be approaching that territory. I mean, as someone who's new to the Big 12, right? This is only my second year covering Arizona State in the Big 12. I don't know if this is an annual thing where we hype up Texas Tech as going to make a run for the Big 12. But, I mean, this certainly seems like one of the peak seasons that you would be having that kind of expectation for it, with all the money that they have spent, with all the names that they have brought in through the transfer portal, with some of the big guys coming back like Baron Morton, nothing bigger than him returning to this team. I mean, they've loaded up this defensive line. The receiver room looks pretty good. The offensive line is bolstered up. There's a lot of really good things that are going on at Texas Tech right now. And the last I checked, those are some of the things that you need the most to be able to contend and be a really good football team for the Big 12 and for the playoff and everything. So if they are the Texas A&M of the Big 12, then, I mean, this would be the year that they kind of epitomize that standard.
I agree. And it's really early. It's just that the trends are the same. You're a school based in Texas. You've consistently been good, but you haven't been great. And then because people have, this aversion to money sometimes, you can take a lot of flack for, oh, look how much they spent, but they haven't won anything. And my point is forever and always what? So they shouldn't try. So they shouldn't invest. They shouldn't attempt to be one of the top talent recruiting teams in the high school and portal ranks in the Big 12. They shouldn't do that. They just should. I've always, I understand why Texas A&M takes a bunch of flack over in the SEC and has for many years. I get it. I get why that is a gut instinct. I'm not someone who has sat here and, excessively gone after him, because I look at him and go, you know what? At least they're trying. At least they care. They're trying to capitalize on an opportunity there. But Give me a dark horse. Bringing this back to the Big 12, Richie. Give me a dark horse program that we have not mentioned. So no Colorado, no Baylor, no TCU. I think Kansas State is a solid pick. Like
Every year.
Within the next 3 to 4 years, I'd be surprised if Kansas State doesn't make a run to the playoff. Do you agree?
I mean, if you're going to pick another team in the Big 12, I feel like you go with the one that has had the most sustained and consistent success in that conference. And I mean, this goes back to when Snyder was running the team, and now you still have that bleeding over in the years beyond him. And they've just got that small school vibe. Even though you are a state university, you go to the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, there's not a lot to do. So when those games pop up on Saturdays, that stadium is sold out, and you feel that stadium absolutely rocking because they're bought into that team every single year. They have 4-win seasons. They have 10-win seasons. It doesn't matter. And it's that level of consistency from the fan base that trickles over into the rest of the department. So, yeah, I do like Kansas State to get to the playoffs sooner rather than later. If I'm picking a team that hasn't been yet in the 12-team playoff, I mean, I got 15 different options. Kansas State might be my number 2. BYU's up there. We'll find out what happens with them down the road. Iowa State here's had a really good season.
Okay, Iowa State is a good pick. Here's my hesitation on BYU. And BYU fans and I had quite the dynamic last year. It took me a while to get on board.
Yeah, you and Drake Toll are their best friends. I get it, dude.
Yeah. So
we don't need 3 Locked On BYU shows. That's all I'm saying.
I fully disagree with you, but that's okay. So the thing with BYU is last year when they first burst on the scene and blew out Kansas State. I remember my takeaway very specifically. It was, this is not sustainable. I don't buy them. This was fluky chaos ball. And you know what? I love it. I like it's so much fun. I'm sitting here and enjoying it, but I'm also watching going, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I think that's a really good team. I don't know if it's a conference championship team. That did wind up being the case. They proved me wrong too many times for me to, do anything except continue picking against them. And BYU fans understood that. Right. I'm curious what the follow-up act is, because you had a magic. I
like them.
Yeah, I do too.
There's just one problem. And that's what I'm waiting on, is until we have a resolution for what happens at quarterback.
Yeah.
You're only going to get as far. It's not the NFL, right? The NFL, if you have an elite defense, you can get there with average quarterback play. It's really not the same in college football. It's almost the exact opposite. You can go far with an elite quarterback and not a great defense. How many times have we seen a college football team with an elite defense carry average quarterback play? So you can point out Georgia if you want.
Nick Marshall at Auburn to the national championship game against Florida State is the one that always comes to my mind.
Right, and they didn't win it. So you're probably going back to Greg McElroy? Yeah, and that's fair.
Probably. I think some people would say Stetson Bennett, but Stetson Bennett's numbers were, he was a Heisman finalist.
That's what I was going to say is like Stetson Bennett, you could argue that. And it's, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he's an average quarterback, but he was a very good quarterback at Georgia. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I agree with that. And, we'll see what happens with the Retzloff situation, because, of course, that changes things dramatically for BYU. And we're not going to get. I
just want to see what happens.
Yeah, right. We're not going to get into all that. But let's presume that he's there for a moment. I still wonder with BYU, like, it felt like there was a magical element to last year, and then it ran out at the end. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your follow-up to that? Kalani Sitake and BYU. That's why they don't jump into my mind, is I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen them prove they can get Baylor, TCU, Kansas State. I think those are good picks. Texas Tech, solid. Iowa State, under the radar. Iowa State is a little bit of that, kind of Texas Tech component of, I've seen the potential, the flashes, the glimpses. I need to see a heck of a lot more before I'd get into that camp.
They're super good consistently, but are they great consistently?
Yeah.
Matty Campbell's got a really good program going on there, but
he does.
I feel like
obviously not as good as Arizona State's.
10. Yeah.
Obviously not.
Obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
Obviously.
Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, great as always. This might be an ongoing discussion here on the show because I have many thoughts. So tune in tomorrow. Appreciate everybody listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.